with that, I have the pleasure of introducing Anant Maheshwari. Anant flew in from Bangalore. Anant possesses a robust professional background spanning over 15 years in the field of EHS, environment, health and safety, and sustainability within the industrial sector. He started his career in 2011 at ITC, and he is dedicated to focusing now on EHS and sustainability for the ITC Foods division. As you know, ITC has many divisions. He has been responsible for building sustainability practices while designing, building and operating 8 factories of ITC Foods. ITC Food has built, I know Panchala and Ravi knows, I've been to some, and you built new factories and you have designed it, very interesting, design it from the ground up to be more green and more efficient. He has has held many roles as a corporate auditor, overseeing sustainability reporting and managing the sustainability performance management system within ITC. His notable achievements encompass conducting life cycle assessments, LCA, carbon and water footprint studies across diverse ITC product and services, and in improving the internal reporting framework aligned with global standards like GRI and other CDP, etc. Anant has, needless to say, an engineering background. His academic credentials includes a postgraduate degree from NITI, not far from Pune, industrial, in Mumbai we have the NITI, which is now called IIM Mumbai. And he possesses various certification in safety, sustainability, and risk assessments. So with that, I welcome you, Anant, and please educate us. Thank you very much.
Color mic? Yeah. Okay, hi, good morning all. Thanks Mr. Murthy, I'm not able to see you, for a wonderful introduction. Even I did not know that I have done all this. Okay, and just a clarification, while I have flown from the Bangalore, but yes, I have learned from Kaizen Institute about optimizing. So I have optimized this travel. We have a factory in Ranjangaon. In fact, yesterday was a meeting, today is this session, and tomorrow I'll be going to Ranjangaon facility. So that's what we do in ITC, and all these concepts we have learned from Kaizen, how to optimize. Okay, a quick background, I think he has already given. I hail from ITC, and in ITC we actually say, I'm a true blood of ITC because that's the only company I've worked with, and whatever learning in my professional journey I have made, that has been because of ITC. They have given me wonderful opportunity to work in different roles. However, the sustainability has been the core. Now, I would like to, I have been given a daunting task of taking a master class, okay, and keeping all of you engaged for next 1.5 hours. So I'll try my best. Before that, would just like to know, in this entire room, how many of you actually have worked or have been working or have done some or other project in sustainability? I would like people to raise their hands. Okay, so I see hardly 10%. Okay, so that will be now my first task on explaining what is sustainability is. And yes, while the topic is ESG, but I would like to break it and would like to discuss much about sustainability, and then we'll try to come on the ESG. Mr. Murthy talked about a lot on who is responsible for driving sustainability. Okay, so that will be a core theme. I'll keep on asking certain questions. Okay, so I would request participants to be active. Okay, and while there is a dedicated time for Q&A, but I would love to hear any question in between if you have any. Okay, so I would like to break this topic into two. One is ESG, another is Indian manufacturing industry. So first half, I'd like to talk about the ESG, and then subsequently I'll come to the manufacturing industry with certain case studies and examples of ITC. So now, the first aspect is ESG, And I would like to hear from people that when you hear the word ESG, what does it actually mean? Do not give me a full form of ESG. I would like to know what is ESG mean to you as an individual or as an organization. Would love to hear people giving answers. Please.
A moral responsibility to give back to the environment and the nature what we took back before, what we took from.
Giving back to the nature. Okay, great. Anything else? Would someone like to add? Anybody, please. Otherwise, I may need to start name of the companies to have responses. Nobody? Nobody would like to give a try? Okay. Then there is another term called sustainability. Okay, are these same or there is a difference? Guys would like to, yes please.
It's kind of survival, how we are going to survive more by doing the practices of ESG.
Okay.
Maybe individual level or organization level.
Okay, but is there a difference between sustainability and ESG? No?
It's only a methodology.
Okay, it's only a methodology. Yes, please.
Yes, there is a difference. ESG is a broader term. It covers sustainability
Okay.
and social as well with the standard frameworks that comes under ESG.
Okay. So you're saying ESG is a broader term, sustainability is a subset of that. Okay, good to hear that. Then within this space of ESG and sustainability, you would have heard every day there may be some new acronym that is coming in this domain, be it NVG, BRSR, ESG, TNFD, UNFCCC. So it looks to be a game of jargons, but like any other function, like in finance there are so many jargons, PE ratio, okay, then EBITDA. So similarly in this is a technical domain, okay, and hence there are multiple acronyms. I would like to answer a few in this session. Okay, so don't get bogged down by the multiple things or multiple names that you might be hearing around ESG or sustainability space. Ultimately, the objective and the direction that it lead to is the same. First, I would like to just break this term called sustainability. The literal meaning of sustainability is the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time. Okay, when it comes to a business space, okay, we talk about sustainable development, right? Where the meaning is largely doing your operations in current condition in a manner that you are not consuming the resources for future generation. That's the literal meaning of sustainability. However, I guess most of us are from manufacturing operations, so these three terms are being used very frequently in the meetings wherever there is a sustainability being discussed. Sustainable development, CSR, ESG. Now would someone like to give me what are the differences between these three terms? Anybody would like to try? Look, all this what I'm saying is my perception, I might be wrong. Okay, so I would like people to give a try and please let us know, means it's ultimately a knowledge sharing. Okay, so I would like to know what's your understanding between the difference between these three terms, sustainable development, CSR and ESG. Yes sir, please.
From my understanding, in 2015, there was a global awakening of the 17 SDGs that we identified, and we are working towards them as an individual and collective responsibility for all. That broadly covers sustainable development itself. It's an awakening at a global level and an individual level of 17 different areas where the 17th one is collaboration. And this brings in a responsibility morally, individually, jointly, severally on all people. That's the first part, sustainable development. Secondly, we are all corporates, mostly manufacturing. We have effluents coming out, we have emissions, we have carbon footprints. So it's a social responsibility for all that, like I said before, what we take, we give back morally to the society around us, to nature, to environment. That's our own responsibility as a corporate. That's corporate social responsibility. And lastly, a broader gamut of this is the environment, is the social aspect of it, is the governance aspect of it, as to what awareness we create, what responsibilities we take on. Out of the 17, we cannot run all the SDGs parallelly. So we select identify, go in a phased out manner, and we reach this. All this comes under consultation from advisors who have done this before, individual journeys like yourself, sir. Take advice from you, and this is how everything is summed up under ESG. This is my understanding of it.
Great. I think wonderfully explained. Means he was bang on, and that's what. Means all these three terms are interlinked. Okay, with very specific, means let us say specifics around it. So sustainable development, as you rightly pointed out, it is about basically the triple bottom line that we'll slightly discuss more when we go further. Basically, not only focusing on the financial improvements, but driving basically the people, profit, planet. Okay, so you have to manage all three. That's what sustainable development means at a country level as well as at an organizational level. CSR is largely focused on certain social interventions, and in Indian context, it is a mandate, okay, to have 2% of your net profits to invest in the CSR. And then ESG is, as we know, the definition or the full form is environment, social and governance. This is a term actually which was coined somewhere in 2005 by UN Global Compact, and then it became popular in 2006 when UN had come up with a guideline on responsible investment. Okay, so this term was used in that guideline. We call UNPRI, Principles of Responsible Investment, largely to bring in some non-financial matrices, okay, which can be augmented or which can complement the overall evaluation of a company or an investment. Okay, so this ESG is term which is largely being used for investment decision making. So that's how this ESG term came in picture, okay, in 2006 by UNPRI. However, this ESG means this is a buzzword we have been hearing for last 3 to 5 years, and in Indian context or even in global context, many a times ESG and sustainable development for corporate are more or less same in current world. Now, would just like to after spending around 13 years in this sustainability domain, I just thought of summarizing my understanding on sustainability and how it addresses the impacts. So sustainability is the superset. Okay, while you said that ESG is a superset, I feel that sustainability is the superset, and from the let us say it captures three broad angles: sustainable business practices, as well as investment and sustainable consumption, even from individual point of view. ESG is a subset of sustainability, and some element of these three gets covered in ESG. While within sustainable investing, ESG is a subset of that. However, sustainable consumption as well as my business practices, also some portion of it falls in ESG. And then we discussed about climate change, okay, and whatever impacts which are there in the climate change, most of them can be addressed by the sustainability, not all of them, okay, that's why there is, you can see some portion is left. So most of them can be addressed by the sustainability approach, and some of the responses that we keep on hearing is from the business perspective, okay, your climate goals, targets, then your risk management, okay, then more importantly the climate finance, which is completely falling in the space of sustainable investment. Okay, so this is the understanding. However, as I said, for many organizations as well as for many, in current days, this ESG and sustainability can be the same, depending on what are your priorities are. Now, would just like to touch upon this, again, word climate change. Mr. Murthy was explaining about the rains in Dubai, okay, then he touched upon Bangalore. So while, I guess many of us might have watched this movie called Sultan, right, Sultan? So, when Sultan enters the arena for the first time, and he gets bogged down by the lights and all, and then he tells to his coach, "Shayad isi ko global warming kehte hain." Okay, so point here is that while we keep on hearing climate change, global warming, and for any problem we refer, okay, because of global warming and climate change, it might be happening, which might be true, okay, but the fact is, I still feel that as Indians, we still are not so much aware about what actually climate change is, how individually I am contributing to it, how individually I can contribute in its mitigation. Okay, so through some examples, would just like to explain you, let us say, my understanding and what we have been doing in ITC. So when we hear about climate change, so maybe a picture of a polar bear somewhere in Antarctica, we feel, okay, because of climate change, global warming is happening, ice is melting, so polar bears are getting dislocated out of their natural homes. Then we think of some coal-based power plant, okay, not related to me. I mean, that is some NTPC or some other company, they have coal-based, means all this is happening because of them. And then because of them, my polar bears somewhere are getting affected. But these examples are not too old. In Germany, in 2021, there had been a drought, okay, in this river Rhine, which has been the backbone of many supply chains. Then, next year in the same region, we saw floods. Again, it's disrupted the supply chains. Even many Indian companies got affected because the material was either not coming or it was not going. And then, let's not talk about, okay, other countries, let's talk about India. India, last year, out of 365 days, we witnessed extreme weather events on 318. And year on year, these numbers are increasing. And we have been witnessing that. Okay, there had been multiple deaths, so many of damages to the crop area. Okay, and then another interesting fact which has come is climate change has made India's heat wave 100 times more likely. Okay, means I'm coming to Pune after 2 years or so. Yesterday when I landed, even I could very well feel the temperature which I was perceiving is much higher, which used to be earlier. And so is the case in Bangalore. Means Bangalore, Pune used to be the pleasant city in India, but I guess it's no more for at least these 2 or 3 months duration. Right? Few things. Bhadrachalam means ITC is the biggest factory. Okay, so there has been the water level of Godavari River cross the danger mark. In fact, it had disrupted our operations. ITC's operations in Bhadrachalam, it got disrupted. Floods in Bangalore in 2023. Anybody from Bangalore here? Okay, so what you definitely would have heard about this news. In fact, these floods have happened in the most posh locality of ITC, of Bangalore. Okay, many means people, they got literally evacuated using tractors and boats, and many of them were millionaires. Okay, so, and this is means today's story in Bangalore. I'm very sure Mr. Murthy mentioned, then yes, you would have heard this. In fact, government has started imposing fines on misuse of water. Okay, so a point here is that climate change is no more something which is affecting means US, Europe, Antarctica. It is there right away in our country, it is there in our city, it is there in our homes, and it is impacting us. It is impacting our businesses, it is impacted our individual lives. Okay? So, this is the district-wise map, vulnerability of climate events of India. Means you can see so many reds, oranges, blue. Okay, interestingly, means everything has a color code. Interestingly, if you see, there are areas which are districts, okay, which are vulnerable for floods as well as for droughts. And that's the reality. Now, point here is that Aaj Mausam Bada Beimani is no more a song. Okay, it is actually, means there was actually an audio, I don't know why it's not running, but it's the new normal. So as individuals, as businesses, while our responsibility is to mitigate the root causes, what is causing this climate change, however, we also have to adapt to these changes. This is the new normal. Okay, means weather will have, there will be sudden rains, there may be floods, but this is something as organization we have to incorporate in our risk management. We have to incorporate in our control measure, be it my contingency planning, be it my emergency response, and let's not shy away from it. And that's not the responsibility of the sustainability officer or the HR manager. It has to be seen holistically by any organization if they would like to thrive. if I talk about only India, okay, so as India, we have less than 2% of global forest resources, around 2.4% of land mass, and around 4% of water resources, which is depleting very fast. Now, means situation seems okay, means we are somewhere around 2 to less than 4% in all of these resources front globally, but we do have a population global more than 17-18%. Now situation becomes more grim. So now, I just cannot rely on what Europe is doing or what US is doing, we'll replicate. It is something now as Indians, we have to find our ways how to take care of these challenges, because it is going to impact me more severely than it will impact any other country. As simple as that. And as, let us say business leaders in whichever domain we are into, it is our responsibility, not only morally, but it is for my, it makes all the logical sense why as, let us say, HR manager, why I should not look into that, how I can contribute to. How as a procurement manager, why shouldn't I look that why climate change cannot impact my supply chain, which can disrupt and which can cause my factory shutdown. Okay, so there is a responsibility for every function in the organization to look into this very seriously. Then other than environment, there are other challenges. One is with respect to the social inequality, as a fact that poorest half of the global population possess just 2% of the total wealth. Then food, that's the very basic necessity for all of us. And with the kind of climate change impact, food is one segment which is getting impacted the most severely, be it related to water, be it related to soil nutrients, be it related to floods, weather. And in fact, as a matter of fact, planet must produce more food in next 40 years, which actually had been produced in last 8,000 years. Okay, because my farmlands have reduced. Okay, means India, we all know how the industrialization and urbanization has happened, which has affected the land available for agriculture. And then specifically when we see about India, the poor proportion, okay, then the employability, these are other concerns. Now, why we are talking about this in a business conclave? Because we strongly feel that business cannot succeed in societies that fail. If those issues are not being addressed, ultimately, as a business, I'll not able to grow. As simple as that. I may grow for next 3 years, next 5 years, but unless those issues are being handled, I cannot have a long-term plan of 10 or 15 years unless I'm able to address that risk, right? If I'm let us say, having a sugar supply from, let us say, Uttar Pradesh, and water is a problem there, okay, so I cannot reduce the cost of my product unless I ensure that the sugarcane crop in Uttar Pradesh is growing efficiently, okay, unless that sugarcane crop is getting converted into sugar, and yes, I can see a continuity of my supply for next 5 years, 10 years, and I have to contribute to that. It's as simple as that, right? So all of you agree on this, this is not only a good thing to do, it is something, it is the logical thing to do if I want to grow in the business, right? Let's not talk about CSR, okay, let's just make business sense. All these issues which we had just discussed make business sense. And that's why he talked about the UN SDG. So at a global level, there are these 17 SDGs which have been formed to give a reference, okay, if at all we want to grow sustainability as a world, as a global level. So these are 17 big areas, okay, and we all can see it's not only related to one function, okay, start with poverty, hunger, okay, wealth, health and well-being, education, gender equality. So all these are important at a global level, at a country level, as an organization level. Now it is our responsibility to know what is more important for me. That is something I'll cover as a stepwise process or as a guidance which can be used. But important here is that sustainability or ESG cannot be achieved by just tackling, let us say, energy or carbon. okay, or I'll just work on water, or I'll just work on the society, or see, I'll do some CSR. Now the question comes that which all issues my company should focus on. Now we know there are multiple problems happening in the world, multiple problems happening in India. So which are those issues that my company should focus on? Profit. Ultimately, we are operating the business for profit. But at the same time, we have to take care of these two elements as well. Right? Now, another question comes that what in planet? Okay, means how to know what are my focus areas and how to prioritize that. That's where the concept of stakeholder engagement comes in. Okay, we all are running a business. So we are creating some value for my stakeholders. So ultimately, what is important for my stakeholder will become important for my business, right? So that's the first step. So would like to hear for any business, which all are the important stakeholders? Means let's hear from the participants. Which are the important, some examples? Who are the stakeholders for any business? Customers? Employees? Suppliers? Sorry? Promoters, okay. Society? Government? Surrounding companies, okay, great. So means all of you are right. So some examples. So as in first step to start your journey in sustainability is important to you to map down what are the important stakeholders for you at a company level. Suppose you are at a factory level, so you need to know what are your important stakeholders for the factory. Unless you are able to know what are their concerns, what are their expectations from you, okay, so whatever you keep on doing, you will not be able to create a value for them. Okay, it's like simple. You keep on telling your son, okay, I'll give you a chocolate, but his expectation is not chocolate, his expectation is let us say a cycle. Okay, so ultimately you need to know what your son wants, then you can evaluate, okay, whether you can give him a cycle currently or not, otherwise make a roadmap, action plan, whatever. The point important, what are those important stakeholders for you at an organization level, factory level, whatever. Then identify, engage with them and try to map what all their expectation is. Okay, and then try to map, okay, what are the important aspects to the stakeholders and what are the importance to the organization. Okay, and then try to map in a simple 3x3 matrix, and what is coming on top, that becomes the most priority areas for your business to attack. Okay, so this is a very basic concept of materiality analysis. Now the word has moved to double materiality analysis, but I'm not getting into that. A simple, very basic step engage with the stakeholders and then identify what is important for them and for the business, and try to try to narrow down your focus areas. As sir has very rightly pointed out that as individual and company, you cannot focus on all 100 things. Just narrow down it to 9, 4, whatever you feel as an organization level, tackle that. Then comes what is next. Okay, I have identified the material issues. Then the next step comes is, out of these issues, which of them can become a risk to me or my business or my operations, and which all elements can be treated as an opportunity. Okay, so let us say we have identified energy is becoming a risk for my operation. So means what kind of risk it can pose, and can it be an opportunity for me? Okay, let me give an example. Anybody would like to share their thoughts? Can climate change be an opportunity to any business? Any thoughts, any ideas, any examples? Yes, sir? Insurance companies, okay. Hospital industries, okay. Renewable energy, great. How emission norms is an opportunity?
And the automotive sector, emission norms always call for new products.
Okay, great. So all of you are right, but point is that as an organization, you have to have that hindsight. Okay, this is becoming a risk for some other, let us say, industry, and okay, these might be their action plans. Can I leverage that risk into a business opportunity for me? A simple examples are EV. Okay, as EV market is booming because of, let us say, the emission problem. Okay, so it's an opportunity for battery market. It's an opportunity for suppliers who are supplying materials to manufacture those batteries. But point here is that unless you are able to, means as I said in the first step, my stakeholder management, engagement, you need to know what your customer wants and would be demanding after some time. So you have to keep on engaging with them. You have to keep on understanding that requirement, map it, and build, means include that in your business plan, right? So some examples, means will not get into too much of this, but important here is that risk part. When we talk about, let us say, climate change as a risk, we have to see it from 2 points of view. One is physical. Physical means the risk which can be to my assets. Okay, that can be acute and chronic. For an example, flood. Okay, it can impact my asset. It can impact my factory. Okay, then transition is, as I was saying, we all know that yes, global warming will keep on happening. Okay, we all know, sir was mentioning about 1.5 degrees Celsius. We know that target is going to breach. What will happen because of that? My regulatory policies may get tightened day by day. That is something I need to account for. Right? I need to make myself adapt. I need to have that visibility. Yes, what if, let us say, tomorrow this becomes a law and I'm not able to, let us say, withdraw more than this much groundwater. Okay, what if government comes up with this new rule? Okay, in the stakeholder, as sir said, that government is also one of the important stakeholder. So we have to, in the transition risks, we have to do that. You are mentioning about new technologies, right? If tomorrow, let us say, coal-based power plant going to shut down, so I have to invest on renewable technologies. There can be and so many others. Air emissions is another. And then it may also have a new market completely. My customer may demand that, okay, I do not want a pack of, let us say, chips which has been manufactured in a manufacturing facility which is in water-stressed region. Okay, I might be very hypothetical, but yes, it can happen. Okay, tomorrow, and that's how many new business players are coming into market, smaller players who are able to give a new value to the customer. Okay, so it is, these are the risks for businesses as well as certain opportunities, right? You need to tell me when to stop for the break. Okay. Then important aspect is, okay, we have done this risk and control and let us say opportunity mapping. The next logical step is identify what action plans we need to put. And more importantly, as Mr. Murthy was also happening, I have to have goals and targets. Okay, if at all I genuinely want to improve. All these aspects ultimately we are doing to improve, and that has to happen unless, it won't happen unless I have a short-term, mid-term, long-term targets clearly defined of each of these elements. We'll give you some examples how ITC we have been doing. It's just an example. Okay, so let's read from here. I mean, that's the first step I was talking about, the stakeholder engagement. Out of this, the materiality, risk and opportunities, and goals and targets and plan. So at ITC level, we have identified these 9 focus areas out of this exercise. Okay. For them, there are certain foundations, which is our policies, which is, that's where the top management comes into picture. Okay, there is a clear oversight by the board on what's happening around this. Every process is being routed through the top management. There is an involvement. Okay, and then for each of these policies, there are procedures in place for implementation. There is a performance management system for each of these. There are KPIs defined for each of these elements. Okay, there is a, let us say, responsibility is defined that who is accountable for which of these aspects. And then there is goals, targets, as well as review mechanism in place. Then means when you are doing this, ultimately we have to also communicate it to my stakeholders, because that's my first step. I just cannot stop by just knowing what is their concern. I have to tell them back. Okay, I noted down your concern 2 years back, 1 year back, and this is what I'm delivering it to you. So that's why this communication and reporting becomes extremely important. So sir has mentioned about that top 1,000 listed companies are now mandated to disclose is under the SEBI regulation. However, yes, sir, please.
Is this framework the G of ESG?
Yes. Yes. Well, I'll cover that subsequently, but you are bang on. This is what the first 4 elements which I talked about, that comes under G. And as well as the more important part, yes, you have a foundation, you have an oversight. It is not something somewhere in 3rd floor, take a right, something happening in that room, but actually it is being happening in the boardroom. So that is what G is.
Not for later. Is there a way in which the various bodies involved in developing this framework for companies, is there a way of looking into lobbies and lobbying which force you to look at a particular opportunity in a favorable manner? Is there a way of calling out such things and filtering them before it develops into a brilliant idea, but just boils for
So
failure?
I'll park your question because in fact, that's another important in corporate governance about the, responsible policy advocacy. Okay, so, and then more important means there have to be certain enablers to run this process. Okay, means as I was saying, sir also mentioned about the governance. You have to have a governance mechanism, how each of these elements are being reviewed, monitored and acted upon. Then the most important aspect which I feel, there has to be a culture to drive it. Why a person on the shop floor whose responsibility is to run a machine, why that person should contribute to this. That's where a culture comes in picture. And then ultimately you just cannot rely on external expertise for all this. Ultimately you are doing for a business, everything comes at a cost. So you have to develop on your internal resources to build in this expertise. You have always look for opportunities where to partner and collaborate. And then another important lever is innovation and digital, right? So that's the age we are living into, to make a continual improvement. That's the last enabler lever I'm living. So I'm leaving this session on this slide and we'll resume after the tea break.
Yes. Thank you very much, Anant. So we will continue this session, but we have a tea break now. So 20 minutes and drink less water if possible. I'm just joking. Because we are talking. Maybe replace tea, water with tea. And when we come back, we will be, those of you who are presenting, challenging the case studies, you will have to go to your respective, the judges are waiting for you. So we will be starting with the case study presentations. Before we break out, I just wanted to request Raghavendra Rao, if you can just step forward, and Ravi, please come forward. Mr. Raghavendra Rao is the CEO of an organization, and Ravi is part of the organization called Kaizen Hansai. Hansai in Japanese means reflection, and basically they have launched the Integrated Manufacturing Maturity, awards or recognition. And one of the elements within that is to reflect on how you're doing on the sustainability part. So maybe if you could just talk quickly about this. Thank you.
Sure. On behalf of my colleague and me, just wanted to kind of emphasize that it's called as the Integrated Manufacturing Excellence Initiative, and it's the 5th year going. But coming out of that, kind of into the core of what Jayant wanted us to speak, we always look at a lean organization when we say as one which produces more with less. So whenever we go into an organization and look at the, or assess their maturity, one of the critical part is are you continuously producing more with less? Are you continuously looking at your waste and continuously reducing your waste, the waste typically as defined in various organizations? And third is, are you agile enough to adapt to changes? Because today change is inevitable, you don't know from where it comes, when it comes. The best thing you can do is be ready for change, for which the more agile and more lean you are, better it is. So kind of, in a way, I can see a very strong link between what is being told and sustainability for us essentially means, are you able to build a system which allows you to sustain the practices, the good practices for
longer duration of time. So are you building that culture? So even the culture comes into, what we do. And we also have a program on ESG specifically in manufacturing, and that is of specific interest for even us to be here when we get to interact with people like Dr. Panigrahi, Dr. Pramod Pandey and Anant, and of course even Mr. Avnish Kumarji. I don't know if he's there today here. Avinash Kumarji has come in? Okay, yeah. So it's good to hear from experts like you so that we are able to better integrate these concepts into, what you call the modern concepts into the age-old, conservative and traditional fundamentals of lean manufacturing. Yep, so thanks Jayant, thanks for this opportunity. Appreciate it. Yeah. You want to say it?
Well, I think with this crowd I can also speak without a mic. Okay, so we left here. Before starting, I just thought of sharing one kind of source of inspiration for me to be in sustainability, as an icebreaker. This is a story about a farmer which I have been seeing since childhood. Okay, in state of Uttarakhand, Garhwal region, a small place called Kotdwar, Kumbichod. So that place also, like any other Indian small village, have got multiple challenges. Okay, be it related to abrupt rainfall, be it related to sudden high winds, be it related to soil nutrients getting lost, okay, so and so forth. So this farmer, while he keeps on cribbing about all these challenges, but one very good thing about this farmer has been he never blamed somebody else for this, right? He thought, okay, these are risks for him and as well as his crop, and he kept on thinking that how I can at my individual capacity can mitigate these risks. So what I have seen in the childhood, this farmer, that time even the LPG connections, even today in that village, LPG connection as such is not there, but LPG cylinder itself was not available. It never used to be available. I remember we used to stand in a queue for like 3 hours, 4 hours just to get a cylinder. So what this farmer had did, I'm talking about some 90s, 91, 92, somewhere at that time, he installed a biogas plant in his farm. Okay, there used to be some 12, 14 kettles, so as well as whatever waste, okay, to generate biogas. After a few years, what he realized that water is becoming a problem. Okay, so what he did while the traditional approach is have some canal, okay, build a, we call in Hindi cool, okay, small this thing for water. Well, he did all this, but despite that, what he did, he identified that there is some space in the land which can be utilized to create some smaller ponds so that I can store water, okay, for the time when the water availability is not there. Then he saw, okay, during summer season there is significant high temperature is shooting up. Okay, so what he did, that was severely impacting the horticulture crops, the nursery. Okay, then he tried to build some shade. But the point here is that at individual capacity, he tried whatever he could. Okay, and the business also sustained, not only sustained, but thrived. Okay, his business is nothing but generating some crops for himself as well as to sell to horticulture department and all. And now he might be around 70, 75. Still, he keeps on looking forward to what at individual capacity he can do. So in my recent visit, what I realized this farmer now has installed solar. Okay, so now kind of he is more self-sustainable for LPG in terms of cooking. Okay, self-sustainable for power. Okay, and for water also, yes, there are some or other smaller ponds have been created. So I'm just taking this story, like if a farmer, okay, who is having a very limited knowledge, very limited access to the resources, is able to do on his own, okay, just to ensure that these external risks, which he cannot control, can be managed by doing something on his own. So at an organization level, when we have access to knowledge, access to resources, we have we are generating a lot of revenues. Why can't I divert some of these resources and revenues to address these challenges for my business to grow? Okay, so that's the larger masses thought of sharing, and I'm proud to say this farmer is my father. Okay, so I belong to Uttarakhand, and I have been seeing all along, and that might be a reason that actually I came into this field. Now, we left here as a framework that ITC is using. ये चल नहीं रहा है. Yeah. So this was a case actually has been presented in MIT some time back. So it's the journey actually how sustainability evolves in an organization. Okay, so every organization may ultimately will go through this journey. So one means it starts with regulatory compliance. That's the basic thing as expected. In sustainability space, there are multiple regulatory compliances, and that's the minimum that somebody can do. As a next step, how we can incorporate some of these elements to see what incremental improvements that can be done. Then the actual journey starts from creating value. How I can link this sustainability or ESG principles with the value of my organization. Okay, these values can be related to we call it like HR values. Okay, it can be the value that I'm creating for my customer. Okay, and more importantly, how I'm able to link the sustainability with the employees, because ultimately that's how the organization runs. If my employees are being able to perceive this sustainability as a value, so that's what the change maker is. Then going forward, there are other steps like after creating this value, how I can design for sustainability, be it my facility, be it my product, okay, whatever services or offerings I have for my consumer or customer, how I can integrate sustainability. Okay, so by this actually what I'm able to do, I can actually create an opportunity because I can be a differentiator who's giving something additional to the consumer and creating a demand for something at a consumer level. And if I'm able to do that, it's going to open a new set of opportunities for the business. And if I'm able to do that, then yes, I can actually create a competitive advantage for myself. Then coming to business model innovation and transformational sustainability. So thought of sharing this, and every organization, if you deep dive, you may find that yes, currently we are in this bucket and we need to aspire it to the next. Okay, so personally I feel that at ITC we are in design for sustainability step, okay, wherein now we are getting into what all business models we can create while maintaining the foundation intact. Now the second aspect, now I'm getting into the what is ESG. Okay, so we have been hearing about this word, and I said in the beginning that ESG largely had been coined, this word has been coined largely for the investment purpose, because as investors at credit agencies, they wanted to evaluate the companies on certain non-financial parameters, okay, so that holistically they can say that which company is performing well or not. So before that, I have a question. All of us might be individual investors, right? We might be buying stocks, mutual funds and all. How do you evaluate a stock or mutual fund? Sorry? Past performance, okay.
Financial stability, financial journey.
Okay, so basically some financial KPIs that you will look into, okay, based on assets. Okay, so sir is slightly going into more fundamentals. Okay, so he'll do some more research on the company. Very good. PE ratio, okay, some more fundamentals. Right, so everything is fine. So yes, we see some rating. Okay, so like sir is able to read the fundamental, understand, so he'll do that analysis on his own. Like people like me who are means Kala Akshar Bhais Barabar Finance, we will, let us say, follow some rating which has been given by CRISIL for an example, right? So ultimately point is that yes, for mutual fund assessment, there are some KPIs, financial matrices that we will see. The same goes with means when these investors or credit agencies rate the company on non-financial parameters. So ultimately there are certain ratings, okay, that they rely on. Means every company may not like to invest on going deep and doing that analysis internally. Rather, they will rely on some third party who is giving rating to the organization on certain parameters. Okay, so that's what the ESG rating is. Now, traditionally, if we see, that's how the traditional investing has been, wherein there is an investor, okay, they are assessing the company on its financial parameters, okay, and then focus on the profitability. That's how agencies are putting up their money on the companies. Now, there has been a considerable shift that it's not only the financial parameters, but yes, on certain ESG parameters also, the company need to be evaluated, okay, and then accordingly this investor will decide whether this company is actually making a sustainable profit, okay, whether this company will be, let us say, delivering this value for next 5 years, 10 years, okay. So it's not only the current financial or historical financial performance, we have to also see what kind of effort this company is putting on the other two circles we have seen, that planet and people, just to see that in a sustainable run, whether this company will be able to make this profit. So that reminds me of sharing one more small story, is when I had joined ITC in 2011. So means all of you might have worked in manufacturing, so you would have seen that there used to be, that safety used to be kind of neglected, right? So safety is a neglected, people think. So that's how every organization, the story has been the same. So same is the case with sustainability. Means ITC has been kind of initial few companies that started this concept of sustainability in ITC. So when I had joined in 2011, so we also found that there is a bunch of people who keep on saying all this, but ultimately the voice is not going to the boardroom. Okay, there is something, some environmental initiative happening in some factory, and okay, board of director visiting the factory, planting a tree, and then congratulating the team. So, but how this sustainability could reach to the boardroom was that as soon as there was a connect of the sustainability principle with financial indices, so that's how the people who actually running out the business, then they think, yes, it is important. So that's what ITC did, integrated this sustainability directly with the business. And that's how ESG also got framed, that when there's an expectation that organization need to do something for the society, something for the environment, okay, so any organization will do if they are able to see a business value. So that's how this sustainable investing also came in picture, wherein investors are actually encouraging or demanding the organization to perform in these areas, otherwise we will not invest. Okay, so that's how even you see, means sustainability always used to be seen as something voluntary, but in last 2 to 3 years within India, all of a sudden ESG became a buzzword, because investors are asking, because SEBI is asking, right? So that's how means word moves, right? So yes, wherever they see yes, ki haan, okay, something important is asking, that's how the things. So that's how SEBI also picked it up, and all this happened because India as a nation has taken very stringent target, and it has been seen, yes, all this we can achieve if corporates are able to perform their duties in responsible manner, and that's how the SEBI came up with all these regulations and all. Now coming to ESG, again, ESG, as we have been discussing, environmental, social and governance, and most of these things are non-financial. Now the point here is that what do we actually measure when we rate, when we say that, okay, Dr. Pradeep was mentioning about MSCI, he was mentioning, then there are multiple ESG raters like Dow Jones, CDP, so and so forth. But what do actually they measure? So these are some, let us say, buckets under ESG, like climate change, carbon, then they're in social, customer satisfaction, then employees, learning and development, and so forth. Now the bigger question is, who are these raters? So these are some of the examples. These are the top 4 globally. Dow Jones, Sustainalytics, MSCI, CDP. Okay, these are multiple companies who rate so many companies globally on these ESG parameters, will come out with a score, will come out with that these are the areas these companies are doing good, not doing good, and all these ratings are available for the investors to decide. So every investor will have some or other their own proprietary, what's the weightage I should give to ESG while making a decision. Okay, so just thought of sharing this, and then specifically for anybody from, yes sir.
Yeah, just one basic question. Are all these raters independent raters, meaning have they decided they will start rating on their own, or do they have some superior body who authorizes them to go around rating?
Okay, so many of them are independent. However, means my big investors like Moody's and all, okay, they also have certain stakes as well as maybe an oversight on some of these ESG raters.
So investor bodies are supporting this.
So globally there is no centralized mechanism to govern what these ESG raters can do. SEBI has come up with some draft guideline as of now. SEBI in India, they are going to put up, that's what they have proposed, that they will going to make a standard, be it any ESG rating, if at all they are rating some Indian company within India, so they have to follow SEBI methodology.
But if it is an Indian company looking at foreign funding, then they don't need to go through SEBI.
Need not to. Okay, so now, for an example, I should not name the rating agency, but what they do is they rate yourself, okay, as per their proprietary methodology, okay, and then they say you are not doing good on these 3. You hire me as a consultant, I will improve your ESG rating. Okay, so that's how the lobbying part also you were mentioning earlier. So that also had been happening, and that's why that SEBI is coming up with that. But that is yet to, a draft guideline had come. It is yet to come. Then within this, there are 2 types of rating that happens. One is active rating, another is passive rating. Okay, so this active rating means that they have a set of questions. Okay, organizations respond to these questions. Okay, and then basis that these active raters rate yourself. Passive raters, what do? Whatever information which is already available in the public domain, they pick up that information, basis that they rate you. Okay. So there is a difference in these 2 methodology, active as well as passive. Then within this, okay, there are some agencies, they will pick up something from public domain, but they will give you an opportunity to add something. Okay, suppose you have disclosed, for an example, let's say take an example of energy. Okay, so you have disclosed in your public that this is my energy portfolio, renewables, etc., but you have not disclosed some HR parameters in your public report, which was, let us say, suppose SEBI is not demanding, hence you have not disclosed. But what do? After their analysis, they will give you an opportunity, okay, that we have rated you yourself basis this. Now, if you have something else, you can add on to this with evidences. But there are these kind of agencies, they do not engage. Okay, means it's a clear cut, this is what is available in the public domain, and that's what we'll do. So now when you remember when I was showing you ITC framework, okay, so I was telling about communication, reporting and communication. So that's why it is extremely important. Okay, there has to be a transparency. You should know that, okay, what all investors you are targeting. Okay, those investors actually look on to which ESG ratings, and be transparent enough to disclose your performance, be it good, bad, whatever, because it is actually better to disclose rather than keeping silent on something, because you never know there will be, because they will not engage with you, okay, and they will give you some negative score because you are not disclosing. Now, point is, what do they rate us on? So, this is an example of Dow Jones Sustainability Index on ESG parameters. So, this is this might be around 2 years old. Okay, so this might have been changed somewhere, but point is, like Dr. Pradeep was also mentioning. Okay, so governance has the largest weightage. Okay, within governance, if you see, there are multiple aspects. Okay, they have given weightage to each of everything. For an example, code of business conduct. There also they have certain KPIs on which they rate yours. Then supply chain management is a very, very critical one that I'll cover separately. But cyber security, okay, tax strategy, innovation management. Why I'm showing you this? Because means again, sustainability ESG is no more just doing green thing. Okay, you have to do all this. As I was saying, materiality, risk management. Unless your sustainability principles are coming in your risk management strategy, you will not get a score. Unless you prove that yes, it's not only I'm selling the product. Okay, you have to have your CRM in place. You have to know what your customer is thinking about you and how are you reacting to your consumer or customer's concerns. Then you were asking about, sir, lobbying. Okay, so there are weightages about policy influence. Okay, so I mean, which all, let us say, forums you are part of. Okay, so what kind of influence you have? Do you have a policy on responsible policy advocacy? Whether your company, let's say, I suppose I'm a representative of company X in, let's say, CII or some other FSSAI body. Okay, so whether your company has told you what should be told, what should not be told. You should not be, let us say, influencing that policy. Okay, I'm going to make this product. Let's try to make a policy so that it benefits me. Okay, so these ESG ratings even get into that. Coming to social, labor practices, human rights, okay, human capital development, that's very important. How you are taking care of employees in terms of their skill building. Okay, what are the KPIs you have? Okay, whether their performance reviews happen on time or not. Whether their concerns, do you have a grievance redressal mechanism or not. Then CSR or philanthropy, means EHS or OHS also holds a major role there. And environment is something that means I think most of us know. However, important here is that there is a critical requirement on the sourcing side. You have a question?
Just a point, gender diversity.
Yes.
Belonging, equity, all this falls under social.
Yes. Any question here? Sir.
What I find missing, I don't know, it might be included somewhere. Product design and circularity go together.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't seem to be getting captured anywhere. Supply chain management is a standalone business. Product design doesn't come into the picture.
Okay, so product is
Packaging design as well.
packaging, it will come. Then, but what you are saying is absolutely right, and it gets captured somewhere. Means because this is means a framework of DJSI, means Dow Jones, but they capture even at product level how many LCAs you have done. Okay, means what are the how many products you have designed for environment. Okay, so that kind of things they do. It might be getting covered. Means point is that many of these aspects might be overlapping. Okay, it's not a clear-cut demarcation. Then on the supply chain side, means so.
Does this also give the flexibility of interpreting certain aspects of this model in the way you think best suits you or is best related to you, rather than go with the definition of that particular point? For example, like you mentioned, gender diversity. My policy may be a bit different for reasons which are specific to my country. Does it give you the flexibility?
So usually what happens, sir, in each of these, let us say gender diversity, so Dow Jones specifically, they'll have a set of questionnaire wherein they will first ask what is your management approach, okay, and then they will have certain KPIs. Now, means suppose all these questions are largely driven from US and Europe context, okay, your point is right. So now, obviously, first when you are responding to them, you have to stick to their set of questionnaire, but they are open for your, let us say, responses, why this is not relevant for you, or why this question is not relevant for Indian context. Okay, so yes, that kind of flexibility is there. Means I'll give you an example. Like in my previous slide, I had mentioned about AT&I. I don't know. This access to nutrition index. That's not an ESG rating as such, but that is largely a forum which rates the food companies. And in last year they had, 2 years back, they had initiated rating Indian food organizations on certain set of parameters. Now what had happened that in all these questions, their questions were largely driven from Western countries. Okay, like I was explaining about food loss and waste. So in the culture in Europe is or US is means whatever leftover food, okay, that will go into the waste. Okay, people do not eat it. But in Indian context, that is slightly different. We will, let us say, store what is left in the night and maybe consume it in the morning. Okay, then there had been many questions on the emissions front. Okay, SBTI for an example, net zero commitment. So what we did in access to nutrition, while we had responded to them, but at the same time we tried to give them Indian context. Okay, why this question may not be relevant as it is for Indian context. So in their rating, they have considered that, and not only ITC, but all the Indian companies, they have rated differently what they used to do in Europe. Okay, so here the bigger point is that if we feel that these ESG agencies or rating agencies are kind of pushing something which is not relevant for us, so it is our responsibility to voice it out. Will not go into much, but the expectation from these ESG ratings is also that you are not doing only thing within your company premises or company control. You have to move beyond and look into your supply chain as well. Okay, so starting from do you have a code of conduct, whether your supplier signed that, do you have a mechanism to check whether whatever they are signing on actually they have implemented or not. Then means are you creating some awareness and capability building for your suppliers, because you have that muscle power to influence. Okay, so ultimately it's for your own good as well as for the good for your suppliers. So whether you are exercising this awareness building or not, then in your supply chain, how are you considering this sustainability aspects as risks? What are the risk management measures you have taken? So and so forth. There are certain angles on the supply chain as well. Yes, sir.
There doesn't seem to be any indicator of whether the sources are local sources or dispersed sources from where you might be doing procurement. Because if they are dispersed sources, naturally there will be higher amount of transportation, carbon involved.
Well, I guess that will come in the my emissions part, which is environmental reporting and climate strategy. That will get covered. And it like other, if I see my green building certifications also, so that's an important.
So they have this
Yes,
parameter
yes.
where you're sourcing material.
So please.
If I can add. So I think you were asking about the gender diversity. So whenever these rating companies, they rate the company on the aspect of gender diversity, so they always keep in mind that in what from what industry the application.
Yes.
Like say for example, gender diversity of a mining company cannot be compared with the gender diversity of a company like IBM. So the denominator will always be very very flexible, because you cannot have 50-50 gender diversity in a mining company. But yes, in IBM like company or HCL, you can always have a 50, maybe better than 50 as well.
So similarly, this is an example of another ESG ratings, which is Sustainalytics. So the percentages may vary. As I was telling, every ESG rating may weight something different, and as he's also writing, means that aspect I have not brought in, but for sector to sector, these percentages can also vary. Okay, I was saying, for an example, Sustainalytics, they have a dedicated marking for food and beverages. Okay, and similarly, means I have kept food and beverage because it's relevant for us. Similarly, they may have something for mining industry. So there will be certain additional weightages to that. Okay, so now comes that what is their process? Okay, there is a lot of subjectivity in their process. Okay, and whatever information that is available to us as a agents, means as a company which is getting rated. Okay, so I have put that slide. So what they do is there is a company data which is available in the public domain. Okay, it can be your annual report, it can be your sustainability report, it can be some case study that you have put up. Then there will be certain news. Okay, for an example, in some factory nearby community, some issue has happened. Farmers have protested, for an example, due to water-related issue from a factory. So they will pick up that. Okay, and then there will be some negative impact in the rating because of those company news as well coming in the public domain. And as I was saying, active rating, so they will have some direct engagement as well. Then they have a proprietary methodology, which is a black box. Every company will never, with all these rating agencies, they do not disclose that. What is their methodology of picking up this information, how much weightage they are giving you on what information. So means we should leave it to them, okay, believing that they are doing whatever is right. And then basis that an ESG scoring comes. Now, the methodology as such is, what they do is, there is a total ESG risk exposure. Okay, in terms of, depending on the sector, there will be some inbuilt vulnerability for that sector, as he is saying mining. Okay, or let us say we will talk about coal industry. So there are, means by the nature of their business operation, certain risks are inbuilt. So that is being considered. Within that risk, there will be certain manageable risks, there are some unmanageable risks. Now what do they see is, whatever manageable risks, okay, that can be influenced by that particular company. Unmanageable is which are inherent in that sector or in that product. Within manageable, what is managed, what is unmanaged. Got it? Then within unmanageable, so this becomes the total risk for that company. Now this becomes the basis for the ESG rating. Okay, I think I'm able to make some sense here. So,
I have one question.
Yes, please.
What we understood that there is no universal method of measuring the USG ratings.
Yes. But approach is this. Approach is this.
Depend on your agencies, depend on your who is your corporate body, how your data-driven system you have, depend on everything. Then how you compare two companies' ESG ratings are better, or I think.
If you are using the same, let us say Dow Jones Sustainability Index, then you can compare the two companies basis the score which Dow Jones has given. Both are different, and in fact, you can find that there are contradictions in the methodology of two. It can happen.
So there is no common visibility.
So that's what I was explaining, that SEBI in India is coming up with certain regulations on this, at least in India.
So then the reality will be different.
May not be that much. There may be some delta here and there, but it may not be so grossly. Means someone is saying you are 100 and other one is saying you are 50. I don't think that will happen.
So here the United Nations Development Council, they have actually clearly defined 16 principles on which
17.
sorry, 17.
Those are principles. Now the point I am trying to make here is that, for an example,
That's a direction towards which I think we can go. For example, any rating agency doesn't matter. By and large, if they conform to these 17 principles, I think the weightage may
weightage may differ.
differ. But these are all the broad spectrum of dimensions on which this rating can be done. So some of all these rating agencies, by and large, they conform to this 17 principles. India is also signatory to that.
Yes.
So it's not about the percentage allocation of the weighting of various dimensions. But what is important is that the basic direction on which all these factors are considered or not.
So more or less all these ESG ratings, as I was saying, that background remains the same. Only thing that varies is how much weightage they are giving to each of these indices.
I want just adding on what sir asked about the ESG rating and the bench by the different companies. Like, one example maybe to give good, say for example, GRESB. So GRESB is basically a reporting framework as well as benchmarking, specifically designed for the infra and building sector. So if you are from a company like DLF or Godrej, so we will prefer the GRESB rating and benchmarking rather than going for CDP or maybe SESB. Although they can go for diesel reporting as well, but generally GRESB preferred among the real estate sectors.
Yes. So even the investors, as he's rightly pointing, investors also depending on which sector they are investing into, there might be sector specific ESG rating. For an example, SASB he just mentioned. SASB have a very clear laid down KPIs for every sector. Okay, for food and beverages, they have defined KPIs. For mining, they have a different, cement, different, fertilizers, different. So the larger message is that that the performance by these ESG ratings will be decided on how are you managing risks which are relevant for you. Okay, it is not something that they will be like he's rightly pointing out that the mining company, they will not rate you 0 just because you don't have gender diversity. Okay, so now again coming back to the basic which I had shared is you have to have that risk management materiality. Okay, so you have to have a process to know what is important for your sector and then your company and how are you managing those risks. So that's where this ESG rating will rate you that what is that either the gap in your manageable risk and what is the inherent risk in your sector. This in totality they will put and quantify in a number. Now coming to Indian space with all these basics we just discussed. So I have thought of putting these 5 levers or drivers for the Indian companies to drive into ESG space. The first one is the regulatory I have put in because in my evolution of sustainability I said the regulatory compliance is the first. Still I'm interacting with it. The regulatory environment, that is where it's mandating. While the mandate as of now is on the big companies which are the top 1,000 companies, listed companies basis their market cap. So it has become mandatory for them to disclose all these information. And in fact, this year onwards, they have asked for top 100 listed companies to give data on BRSR core indicators that I'll cover separately, which Dr. Pradeep also was mentioning, that you have to have a reasonable assurance for all this data. Then coming the risk management, as I said, in last 5 to 10 years, we have seen these sustainability aspects are actually posing risk to the business. So now companies are coming forward and doing a stepwise process and integrating my sustainability risk as part of my overall risk management. So in terms of be it climate change, social inequality, value chain, okay, because for an example ITC, so we most of our raw materials are agri-based, okay, like even for our food business, we means Ashirwad Atta is our main product, which is nothing but wheat, okay, which is an agri product. So now if there is not adequate rains in Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh, which are the 2 main sourcing hubs for us, so it will directly impact my largest brand. Okay, I may not be able to cater to the market. So it is a risk. I have to identify and I have to address. So now as a business, I have to see that what I can do to ensure that there is a consistent as well as sustainable supply of that wheat to my factories. So I have to, let us say, get into certain right partners who can partner with farmers, can help them addressing these risks at their farms, okay, so on and so forth. So that's why that value chain. Then I may also be interested, for example, as ITC and many other companies in FMCG space, we operate in third-party manufacturers. Okay, so how they are able to take care of their local environment. So tomorrow some issue happens in that local environment, so that factory may get shut. While that the principal employer may not be affected, the brand, but there will be a supply shortage may happen. So I may have to support my 3P, the third party, on certain basic things. Okay, whether my labor practices are okay or not, my statutory compliances are okay or not. Got it? And then governance issues, okay, that we all know how corporate means Mr. Murthy in the morning had shared certain governance and issues can collapse the business. Coming on the investor pressure, with ESG becoming a prominent buzzword as well as aspect, there is a considerable investor pressure on the ESG front. In fact, you would have seen that all big mutual funds also have some or other ESG fund. Okay, so they are also monitoring how companies are performing on the ESG. Competitive advantage. Okay, this I feel is very important because the first three are largely kind of push for you to do all this, but this is something companies are looking into, how we can actually create a pull by the consumer by having some competitive advantage. For an example, there are companies, have you heard of this brand called Wholesome Truth? That they are into food space. Okay, so they have come up with something that all their fruit product are, you can actually trace the complete traceability from where this raw material has come, from where this thing has been manufactured, okay, how much wastage has happened. So they are making themselves a complete transparent supply chain, and in fact they are charging a premium because of it, and then customers are willing to pay. Okay, for like even ITC in our sustainability in our stationery business, okay, we do have certain products where we claim that this is completely sustainable because of these resins, and then there is a delta in the cost, and we have seen that there is a increase in consumers who are preferring these value added products. Okay, so that's how another lever for companies to drive ESG. And then more importantly is the consumer awareness, as consumer is becoming more and more aware, and this will keep on happening, because from the government side also, because as country we have taken some stringent target, and it will not be achieved unless consumer is kind of demanding it. So parallelly that is also happening. Yes, sir.
Let me just paraphrase my question. Like you just mentioned now that they're charging a premium for the ESG compliant product.
Not the compliant. That doesn't mean compliant. Means compliance and
whatever ESG whatever favorable product. Similar case is Tata Power. I am a customer of Tata Power. I get the offer saying that would you want to go for green power? If so, I'm going to charge you 0.5 rupee more per unit. I don't take it. So doesn't it somewhere negate the benefit what is supposed to accrue out of such adoption? That you are going towards taking care of your stakeholder interest. You also take care of profits and profitability. Now, by when you're compromising on your cost and saying that this is coming at an additional cost, aren't you negating, not you, so don't mistake me. I'm saying, isn't this entire discussion negating the basic fundamental principles of ESG adoption?
So I feel it's a phase, okay, that has to go through. Means as the technology improves, so ultimately my cost of doing this value added. Yes, yes, and as a company, let us say Tata Power, okay, so from where they will get this motivation or the aspiration to invest in that technology.
Why would I get the motivation to invest?
So look, as an individual consumer, that's what they are trying to do. Okay, okay, for the time being, let's leave the Tata Power for the time being. Let's talk about Zara or the fashion brands. Okay, there is a segment. There are brands in the garment space who sell at a premium price, and there is a brand called Veza. I don't know if anybody has heard about it. They make sneakers. Okay, these sneakers are made in Brazil. Company is French. Okay, and then their sneakers in India is like 12,000 to 14,000 rupees. And they claim, and they have all the systems in place. All their materials are renewable. The factories in which it has been manufactured do not have the type of issues which are usually there in the industry, like in Bangladesh and all. In their entire supply chain, there is a traceability, and they completely, when they are selling their pair of sneakers, this is also a value proposition for them. And then consumers, that they have created a separate brand. So that's what I'm trying to say. All this is happening because they are also exercising some cost. They also need to create some sustainable value for that business to grow. So ultimately this cost, some portion they will be able to reduce from their profits, but it will ultimately need to be absorbed somewhere. And that's why they are passing it on some portion to the consumer. and they are not saying everyone to buy it. Okay, right? So whatever their business growth aspirations, they are targeting that segment. What they are doing is they are trying to increase that segment, the number of consumers which are demanding this Veja. There are multiple other like peer pressure. They have a their brand ambassador is some big shots. Okay, so people are getting aspired to. But I'm trying to say that ultimately whatever cost in doing these additional things, okay, that has to be passed on. And many companies are targeting it because they want to play in that premium segment. I may not be able to fully answer your query. For like coming to the Tata Power.
No, I get your opinion, so I think that's right. What is Tata Power, green power? I think they believe people will pay more for green power. In my limited thinking, Tata Power cannot say that unless and until they deliberately sign a contract. Because they are in the grid. They are in the grid. They are in green. Behind the grid. Seems to be very possibly not coming out.
I have one question. That means ESG you are using for marketing somewhere. So
You can use.
yeah, you can use for marketing and get more profits, or you can generate wealth.
Look,
Separately, but
you have to create new opportunities for yourself.
adding values to the social
Why not?
things, because that is very important.
Now, let me put.
Visualize to
Ultimately, let's continue with the example of this company called Veja. Okay, so now, Veja as a company is not here to do charity, right? They are here to do business. Ultimately, I have to do profit. At the same time, I have to take care of people and planet. Whatever business you are doing, you have to do in a responsible manner, right? That's the basic concept of business, right? Means any business is growing just because they are creating a value for themselves as well as for the society. So now, while doing this, if you are able to put yourself as a niche player in the market, that's the competitive advantage you are getting. So what's the harm in that? I do not see any negative reason for why you should not publicize yourself that I am doing good. Only thing you should not do a greenwashing. Whatever you are doing,
but you have to pay the premium price.
means it's up to the company, right? If you want, okay, at the same price, I can do and I can create more number of consumers so that I'll be able to offset that cost. Very well. It has to be part of the company's strategy. I'm not saying that is good or that's right or wrong, but that can be part of the company's strategy. Okay? Now, means I'll take an example of ITC. The Ashirwad atta that we make, okay, means it's not that we are charging some premium just because we are doing all that intervention at the farm. Okay, because I'm doing that because means to make my product ensuring that my supply of wheat is consistent. Okay, so tomorrow ITC may decide to launch a product with some premium, okay, for doing something extra. Any other question or point of discussion here? Okay, we discussed about SEBI. I think all of us know about SEBI came up with this requirement of disclosing all this information. Okay, so initially, yes, it's kind of mandated for the top 1,000, but eventually these requirements will keep on increasing. Now, we talk about BRSR, business responsibility. So what actually it talks about? So BRSR is business responsibility and sustainability reporting, which largely ask the companies to work on these 9 principles, okay, which is ethics, transparency, accountability, well-being of your employees, protect human rights, then public and regulatory policy advocacy, then providing value to your consumer, equitable development, environment, then sustainable sourcing, and product sustainability in terms of how in the entire life cycle of your product you are able to take care of sustainability elements. And BRSR core, that is a subset of BRSR requirement, wherein this has been mandated for top 100 listed companies starting from this year, that they have to disclose these 9 KPIs, 9 KPIs for themselves as well as for their supply chain. And this has to be reasonably assured by a third party. So that is the requirement. And in fact, India as a country has been among the very few nations who have made it so strict. These are the timelines, okay, wherein means starting from the mandatory requirement, top 1,000 listed companies, then reasonable assurance for top 150, then value chain disclosures for your supply chain. Just a piece of information. Just a quick snapshot, but actually is reported in BRSR is there are 3 sections. One is talks about the basic company. Then the second talks about your management approach, which I was explaining you. Okay, so SEBI is also interested that you have to have some systems in place to drive this. It is nothing just the data. Okay, so they are very much interested to know what's the management approach here in terms of do you have policy, okay, who has approved that policy, do you have a procedure, at what frequency this procedure is being reviewed. So all these questions are being asked there. And then finally they ask for the actual performance. And within that performance they also have mandated that these are the basic minimum performance disclosures you have to do. And then they also say there are some leadership disclosures which are voluntary in nature as of now. Okay, so now with all this, that's what now my last question. Then now, knowing all this, what do you think is responsible for implementing ESG and sustainability in a company?
It's a CXO mandate.
Okay, CXO mandate. Everyone? Everyone is responsible? But I feel that if everyone is responsible, actually no one is responsible. Right? So what we actually need is, what actually as a company we want to do, okay, can we break it into...
My problem is, okay, the thing is a thick thing, how you dilute to or cascade into the, down the line into the factory structures. So every people should understand ESG is a part of the mission. This KPI, but KPI doesn't have a standard formula. KPI does, this depends on some concept. Okay, so this way, how long you can achieve the results which is really, or which is real, basically. That is very important to understand.
Okay, so means after this I'll share some examples of ITC. Okay, so I hope that will give you some idea. Means will you hold that question till that time?
Because owners, promoters, they can hire agencies and make the ESG parameters perfect. Suppose. And parallelly, they can do some changes in factories, in manufacturing.
Then means it's nothing but a greenwashing, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, which is most of the companies also doing.
May not be true.
No,
Means
partially it is true.
partially it is true, yes.
Yeah, so.
Because still many.
How you put regulations? You cannot put regulations here. Mandatory. Regulation is not there. So if there is no regulations, people will play, investors will play. So the interest will divert it.
So
They will
means
say, okay, profit is maximized, used as a marketing tool, and do whatever disclosure will be, can be managed. So all these things can be done. But how long SEBI can control this? Cannot control this.
no.
Just, if you don't mind, this would be my perspective. If I were to mull over this and give an individualistic answer, like you say that the motivation for going for ESG rating is essentially coming from the funding that is going to enable you to get some funds. But the same logic given compliance to ESG responsibilities has to be driven by KPIs and by a top-down,
Yes.
the seriousness which is seen down the line. If they feel that the boss doesn't care about it, there is nothing you can do down the line to make it happen.
Yes.
But if they know that it matters to the management and the board, and that by complying and doing needed things in ESG space, I'm going to get my career advance. I think that's possibly a higher
Yes.
motivation. A very valid point.
So means the way I see it, that's why I wanted to have two buckets, sustainability and ESG. Okay, so ESG is largely being driven by rating because my investor is looking that way. Sustainability is a principle.
Yeah, you are telling to be honest.
Yes.
Why should I be honest?
Okay, so now
That's the main question.
Now-
Why should I be honest?
means look, why should I be honest? Okay, so this is a very, look, if I personally feel that if you see the companies who have been driving this as a journey, okay, means ITC took some 25 years to reach to that stage now where we can actually getting value out of these interventions. So now, I mean, all this is not going to happen within 1 or 2 years. This is a journey that has to be started. So for a company to have such kind of vision and a long term, so this is the stage where this has to be understood by the, let us say, the board or the top management, that how other companies are able to create value by following this path. And this is not an eye wash I need to do for a promoter or the investor.
But lot of products not supported by ESG.
Okay.
ITC has to stop.
Means, in that case, many other businesses have to stop.
Yeah,
Right?
that means again come back to the same things.
Yes,
That
please.
was the essence of the question I posed to Dr. Panigrahi, Mr. Panigrahi. That is a very thin line between greenwashing, that's the ESG part of it, and the certain awareness which comes from awakening through awareness, research, study, wherever. So that is where we are driving at. There is a trade-off for both. One is the financial aspect of it, for the loans, for the profitability, to focus on the ESG part of it. So checkbox activity. You have gender diversity, take it. If you don't have it because I want it for the loan. And the other part is the awakening, which comes from within on an individual level. There can be an awakening on a corporate level, but there is nobody driving it for that.
So, means, okay, that this perception can be different from person to person. I personally feel that why do I need somebody to tell me this is good? I mean, as an individual, I feel it is good for me. I am starting exercising, and at the corporate level, the same holds good for the, means, let us say, the decision makers. Okay, why do they want, okay, unless this becomes a compliance, then only I'll do. There will be certain set of people. But what I'm trying to say, there are empty number of examples where people have adopted this approach and are able to generate and create value for themselves as well for the society. They are creating goodwill, okay, which is impacting in their top line, bottom line, whatever you say. So that's how I see it. Okay, and ultimately SEBI is also, from the mandate point of view, they are mandating only the top 1,000 companies who have that muscle power to do this actually. Okay, now it's up to them whether they do want to do a greenwashing or they do actually want to do it. But it's just a matter of, means, let us say, a negative news coming into the newspaper that this organization doing greenwashing and not doing all this. Ultimately, they will lose out on their brand reputation. So that's a risk they have to, they have to see, right? Are they willing to take such big risk for their brand? As simple as that. Okay, so some examples. What I was trying to say for this to drive at an organizational level, I was trying to say that we have to define that. Out of the material issues that have been identified in the initial step, we see that there has to be certain KPIs, okay, and then that has to be translated to different team members. Okay, so environment is easy, that most of our companies have been trying. On social, what can be the potential KPIs? In any other company in social front? Some examples? Environment is okay. Social? Gender diversity, yes. Within gender diversity, there can be multiple KPIs. Okay, so some examples for this. Okay, employee engagement and satisfaction, then learning and development. Within learning and development, there can be multiple KPIs actually. Okay, employee turnover. Then within turnover, you can actually measure that from the gender point of view. Okay, then females who have returned to work after their maternity break. Okay, so these are some of the KPIs. OHS is a big one. Then well-being. Even in fact, there has been after specifically COVID. Okay, so there was a lot of focus on mental well-being. Okay, so that's also becoming a KPI these days, as how many mental well-being whether company is providing mental well-being support to its employees. Okay, and then from the factory point of view, labor practices, freedom of association. Okay, and then some of the KPIs on the governance front. Okay, so now as a best case in terms of driving all these aspects. Okay, so we can very well see that means one person, one department cannot do that. Here the purpose of putting up this slide is this has to be distributed. This work has to be distributed, and this has to be part of the job profiles in many of the functions that we have. Okay. So any question, point of discussion here?
So there are few KPIs that very difficult to measure, like frequency reporting.
I have put the theme. Okay, so there can be, yes, that can be on the, let us say, the audit observations, that way. I have just put up the aspect. In each of these there can be measurable KPIs. And while I am presenting in ITC, it's not that we do have KPIs on all of them, but we do have in many of them. And those have been mapped to individuals and individual departments, HODs, that way. Okay, anything on the concept front? Now I'll shift to the case study mode and we'll share some of the milestones achieved by ITC. Yes, please.
As you told us the example of companies which are manufacturing the sustainable product like waste. So their facility, if they have to build the facility for the sustainable product, is it a costly compared to the traditional building facility?
I don't have a direct answer to this, but what we have experienced, for an example, in ITC that I'll cover in subsequent slides, means we are a very strong promoter of green buildings. ITC, okay, we do have multiple, around 40 odd buildings which are certified as per the standard. Now, initially, yes, what we have realized in the capital expenditure point of view, there is a delta. Okay, however, means on a long run, okay, that delta give you a benefit. For an example, I guess Sir was mentioning about the local sourcing. When you make a green building, so there are some specific requirement of having local suppliers. Then there are requirements of having, for example, I4 or I5 rated motors for energy efficiency. While there will be a slightly delta in the capex cost, on the OPEX cost savings, it will become a saving for you and you will have an ROI there. And then similarly for your ventilation system, they promote on natural ventilation wherever feasible. Okay, so on long, means you may have to invest slightly on that, but yes, it makes financial sense to invest. Okay. Now getting into ITC, people who do not know about ITC means we are a company which is more than 100-year-old, operating in India. Then we are one of those unique companies who operate in the three sectors of the economy, be it agriculture, manufacturing as well as services. We are there in all three. Then these are some of the businesses for us: FMCG, agri, paperboard, hotels as well as infotech. And these are some of the brands in means most of the segments there we operate, we are there among the leaders. Now coming to the sustainability vision for ITC, means ITC had started this journey sometime back in 1998, where we actually created a governance, okay, a three-tier governance mechanism, which actually now has become as a mandate, okay, in the standards. And then in 2000 we started certain e-Chopal. Okay, I don't know means you would have heard about e-Chopal is something creating a platform for the farmers to where they can have access to the technology and information which they can use to improve their farm yields. That was something which started in 2000. And then ITC also started in social investment programs, which later on became a CSR regulation. Okay, in 2003 we achieved a water positivity and so on and so forth. So 2004 was the year when ITC started disclosing its sustainability performance. Okay, much before it, this became a mandatory requirement very recently, but ITC has been publishing its performance since 2004. So in fact, last year was our 20th sustainability report that was published. And that's how I was saying that it's a journey basically. Okay, so ITC has been doing this for 20 odd years. So now we do have a lot of learnings with us. We do have a kind of framework where we can try out new things. Okay, now a quick, these are some of the sustainability performance indices on the most of the ESG ratings. We are there on the leader band. Okay, this is one aspect, AWS, which is Alliance for Water Stewardship. So this is a very important focus area for ITC currently. Okay, this is a global standard which talks about water stewardship. Well, stewardship, the meaning means, stewardship means taking care of something which you do not own. And water is such a resource where you require but you do not own. And that's a framework which, it's a Scotland-based forum, okay, which rate the companies and certify them on the stewardship approach. So ITC actually has taken a target that all our manufacturing sites who are in water stressed region, we have to get this certification. Okay, so I'll share that subsequently. And then LEED Zero, largely in my hotel industry. So that's another big target for us. As I was saying, in most of the ESG ratings, we are there in the leader band. Okay, so now just a quick example. That's how the ITC have its sustainability governance. Okay, so we do have a complete structure. If you say this, we started with 3-tier, now we have a 5-tier governance mechanism. There is a board of director, then there is a board committee on sustainability, then there is a corporate management committee, which is the apex body at ITC level to take business decisions. Okay, under that there is a dedicated sustainability committee. Then there is at every business, okay, be it foods, paper, so there is a dedicated sustainability committee at every business, okay, wherein the CEO is the chairperson, and then every factory, every unit actually, not only factory but be it even office space, we do have dedicated responsibilities defined, okay, to drive these sustainability indices. And there are defined review mechanism, monitoring, and as well as KPIs. Then we do have a complete, from the sustainability space, there is a policy framework just to provide a framework on which procedures have been developed and all. So just a quick snapshot. Okay, now coming to the strategy front. So as I said, we have been doing all this since 20 years or so. So every year it is something a lot of, from the board as well as from CMC, Corporate Management Committee, we strive forward what new can be done. So as a theme, Sustainability 2.0 has been a key agenda for ITC with these four drivers. One, how to mainstream sustainability. Okay, sustainability, how I can, how can ITC be seen as the leader in this sustainability front? That's the core driver, one of the core drivers for us. How we can create a competitive advantage for our businesses by driving these principles. Then to strengthen our status of being a climate positive organization. And last is how I can leverage all this to create business opportunities. So these are the new four drivers for us. Means we have been doing work on the foundation for years. Now these are the new levers for us. And within that, these are the 6 important areas we have picked up for us for moving further in this space with a base that we are there in the business to create sustainable livelihoods. Okay, so that's the base of our initiatives. Now, this is within ITC, as I said, we operate into multiple businesses. So this is just a snapshot of a strategy for food business from where I am. So this is across the value chain, what we have identified that the life cycle of my business, suppliers, my direct operations, and consumers. And within that, we have identified what are the material issues, and accordingly, we have identified certain interventions in each space. As I said, it's a journey, but the important point here is that we have to start that journey. Okay, so it's not that all my suppliers are also aiming for net zero, but it is something I have started a journey that yes, we have started engaging with them, we have started creating that awareness, we are providing that capability to them so that they can aim maybe 2 years, 5 years down the line. Then similarly for direct operations, climate change, water stewardship, safety and diversity. Okay, these are the 4 pillars which currently are focus areas for us. And coming to the consumer side, my packaging, then nutrition. Okay, these 2 are the other 2 important pillars. Now, we would just like to quickly tell about some of these themes. Within the climate resilience, means we do operate in 2 buckets. One, how can I decarbonize my operation, and at the same time, how I can influence my value chain. Okay, so these 2 are the levers for us. And means there are certain KPIs and the specific focus areas like renewable energy. So this 43% is the last year's number. This financial year we are targeting to close by around 50. Okay, so that consolidation will happen another 1 month's time, but around 50 we are targeting. And then there are reductions for specific energy, green building. Okay, and then climate smart agriculture, which I was explaining you, means how, means by doing this we are able to means manage the risk related to my agri value chain. Okay, just a snapshot of green buildings, which we are means very active supporter of. In fact, means in hotel industry we are the first 12 hotels across in the world to achieve the zero carbon status. Okay, just a quick case study on the wheat supply chain, which I was explaining you earlier. So Ashirvad is the means #1 packaged atta brand in the country, and what we have realized that means if we want to grow this brand, we have to ensure that my back-end supply chain is fully geared to the risk related to the climate. Okay, and hence there are strong interventions in terms of development of these kind of variety of wheats which can withstand that harsh climate. Okay, there is a considerable investment and effort on the R&D side along with farmers. Then at the same time we are there to support farmers on the climate resilient soil and water management practices. There is extensive work means in Rajasthan, MP, UP, which are the main sourcing hubs for us. Okay, and with these 5 focus areas. Water security, that's the next after carbon. Water security, water is, I mean, all of us know it's a precious resource. Okay, so along that there are 2 sides of means 2-pronged strategy. Mean demand side management in terms of my water requirement, how to reduce it to the minimum, and the supply side means the water source, means can I do to improve the means the water source availability itself. Okay, so there is an extensive work happens in the catchment wherever we operate. Okay, in terms of how they can augment water as a resource, be it through rainwater harvesting, be it creating certain structures. Okay, then at the same time we also operate in educate farmers to shift from certain crops which may be less water intensive. There is also an extensive work happens specifically for region like Bangalore. Okay, there are traditionally farmers used to grow certain crops which were water intensive. So ITC has been supporting them, one obviously to put up water means efficient irrigation practices, but at the same time giving them knowledge that if you shift from this crop to this crop, what can be the advantages for them, and not only water but multiple other better yield, okay, better returns and all. So as I was explaining, this AWS standard, Alliance for Water Stewardship, that's important focus area and target for us. And overall, by doing all these interventions, we are harvesting more than 3 times the water that actually we consume. Then this is the target that we have taken for ourselves. As I was explaining since beginning, unless I have a defined target and goal, okay, so means we just cannot work randomly. So from that point of view, as a short-term target, these 8 factories had been targeted to achieve this global standard. Means and a proud moment for us that yes, we have achieved all of 8 of them. Then now the next target for us is means having this certification across all the manufacturing sites, okay, by 2035. So extensive work is happening in that space as well. Okay, just a case study of our factory in Malur, which is near the Bangalore, and means I was also closely involved in this project, and means it's actually means we started all these interventions at the catchment level somewhere around 7 or 8 years back. Now the best part of this is in our factory, all our bore wells had dried. By doing all that intervention in the catchment, actually now our bore wells have rejuvenated. Okay, means it's not yielding means to meet the entire requirement, but yes, there is a considerable yield that has come in the bore well. Okay, and also the farmers side also, water availability has means increased considerably if we see that span of 5 to 8 years. And with this, actually, we became the first food factory in Asia to achieve this. Towards the circular economy, yes, waste is another important area for us, and specifically when we operate in FMCG. So plastics is the main focus area. Okay, where means along with reducing the packaging that we use, means there is a means equivalent importance and focus is being given on the EPR. Okay, means collecting back that plastic, ensuring that is getting recycled and all. So while now it has become a law, but ITC had started this intervention much earlier. Okay, and now because of that, means in 21 itself, means we were able to achieve that plastic neutrality. Okay, and then this is our key intervention, which is around 12 or 15 years old now. We call it well-being out of waste, wherein it's largely a community engagement program for developing the awareness on segregating waste, okay, among the household. And interestingly, this actually had been started as a supply chain intervention, because in our paper manufacturing, waste paper is a raw material. So ITC had started this as a supply chain intervention. So how I can directly get this waste paper from the consumer before it gets contaminated with other. Okay, so that's how some 15 years back this intervention had been initiated, which is helping us a lot in meeting my compliance requirement for plastics. Okay. On the brands front, okay, there are multiple interventions being taken to promote the sustainable packaging, reduction of packaging consumption, then shifting from plastic to laminates, let us say monolayer plastic, or replacing it with the paper. Okay. And then, as I said, we are an agri-based company. So engaging with my agri-based stakeholders is the most crucial for us to sustain in this business, and that's what we have been doing. I mean, addressing the challenges in Indian farm space, providing them the technology, providing them the right information, okay, creating all this, means let us say pilot fields where we can demonstrate the new technology to them so that they get convinced, okay, and then they can adopt these new technologies. Okay, so certain aspects related to zero tillage, water, then farm mechanization. So these are some of the aspects related to the agriculture interventions that we are into. And coming to means diversity and inclusion, another big focus area for us. Means in fact, means ITC has been the driver for driving this in multiple states. Still, there are many states in the country where they do not allow 3-shift operation by women staff. Okay, so ITC has been a front runner in liaising with the government agency, giving them confidence that yes, we do have all safety and security systems in place, and to enable. I mean, Punjab has been a very recent example where ITC has been able to convince the government to allow. And ITC became actually the first company in Punjab to get this approval, and now it has become, I mean, they have now allowed it for other companies also to do. Similarly, in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, okay, in fact, all the new factories that we are venturing into. So from top management side, there is an expectation that all these factories should be women majority factory. And it's proud moment for us to say that new factories like in Hyderabad we have opened, in Odisha we have opened. So where all the machines are being operated by women. Now, this is the last aspect which I was telling, that how to utilize all these interventions to create a value. So from the top management, there is an expectation that all the brands that we are doing, every brand should have some or other responsible business element to it. Okay, so that's how there are some brands, for an example, Ashirwad, so that's into women empowerment. Okay, there is a brand, our Noodle EP brand, that's into plastic recycling and utilizing this material into something useful. Be Natural brand, it's a promoter of local sourcing. Okay, means unlike our competitors, we source the fruits as well as the pulp from the local suppliers. Then the Sunfeast is into means promoting sports among children. Okay, so and so forth. Vivel is again into the women empowerment. So in ITC, what has been, it's not only kind of a principle, but what we realize that unless the proposition to the consumer, unless that embeds some sustainability principle, we may not be able to achieve it properly. So that's how it has been integrated in the business offerings we have. And yes, we do have a passion for profitable growth, but the way that is sustainable and inclusive. So with that, I rest my presentation. Thanks a lot. Yes, sir.
Even as you spoke now, as you even presented the case study, something which gets evident not just from your presentation but even from our experience from having seen multiple sites is that the E and the S part gets discussed and but then the governance part for some reason doesn't get discussed or doesn't get into the public domain. So is it something which is only an observation or is it the reality?
Discuss in the sense you are saying within the company or?
So is it adequately discussed within the company is my question. If not outside, fine. People like us don't need to know. But at least within the company, are those issues of governance taken care of as seriously as expected?
Well, in ITC space, I'll say means around 60 to 70% of. Okay. So to some extent, not all of them are being discussed so openly. Okay, but many of them are. For an example, in governance, we saw about risk management, then issues, responsibilities. Okay, these are the aspects which have been discussed very, very often. Okay, in fact, within the factories, in fact, in our factories, I can say, as part of the monthly management reviews, these aspects have been discussed on the systems. Now coming to certain other elements which might be related to, for an example, tax strategy, anti-corruption, salaries for that matter. Okay, so those are aspects which I feel as Indian companies we are not so mature to discuss so openly. Okay, because yes, at back of the mind there might be, means in all the companies there is a huge difference between the highest payer and the lowest payer, and that's an important KPI. Yes. Okay, so these things are not being discussed so openly. Yes, you're right, sir. Yes, please.
Thank you for enlightening us on the difference between the ESG and sustainability so far experience. One question is lurking in my mind is, what is the transition or difference between sustainability and the circular economy? So that's, according to my understanding, the next level. Please guide us what you experience in your journey and what is an advisory for us to go towards circular economy.
So, circular economy means it's not a new concept, okay, and I feel that it's part of the sustainability journey only, okay. I mean, depending on where it is getting reflected in your material issues. Now, my experience on this particular topic is the ultimate aim is means whatever waste that you are generating, it should not be a waste, and then it should become a raw material for yourself or for somebody else. Now, as a concept, there is a concept of industrial symbiosis, wherein means you are openly partnering with other agencies who can be the best user of your waste, which in Indian context I feel is still a long way to go. But there has been a very good movement by Government of India. If you see from the waste regulations point of view, in last 3 years there had been multiple regulations which have been amended. Okay, be it hazardous waste, be it even for non-hazardous waste, then e-waste, plastic waste. So government is creating those structures to enable companies in the name of law. Okay, the concept of extended producer's responsibility. So I feel, yes, by like sir was also mentioning, when as Indians we usually start doing things when we feel there is a stick, right? So government is following that route, and from the circularity point of view, these rules that have been put in picture are being developed considering that as India, as a nation, we have to achieve that circular economy. Okay, so that's my thought on this. Thanks. So thanks a lot, everyone. Okay.